This video is sponsored by Supply Handlers. The 2026 World Cup is a gift that just keeps on giving. We thought the group stage was great, but the knockouts have been even more mind-blowing. It has been blockbuster after blockbuster, and we just cannot stop watching. Almost nothing is going according to plan at this World Cup, and it's making for a very good watch. A good number of teams that the majority expected to tear things apart at this tournament and make up the final 8 have been total letdowns. It is those nations we are here to talk about in this video today. These are the biggest disappointments of the World Cup knockouts so far. We'll start with Brazil. There will always be huge expectations when it comes to Brazil and the World Cup, but they have disappointed the entire world with their performances. They got past the round of 32, but it wasn't a convincing performance. They had to come from behind against Japan and needed an error in the final moments of the game to win it. Everyone who was watching could already see the cracks in the team from that game, but for those who didn't, it came to full view in the round of 16 game against Norway. This was a team that had never played World Cup quarter-final football in their entire history, but they completely outplayed Brazil. They had more possession, more shots on target, completed more passes, and created more non-penalty XG. It was as close to a humiliation as you can get. Coming into the tournament, Brazil had one of the strongest squads, and with Carlo Ancelotti at the helm, everyone thought they could finally get their hands on the World Cup again after 24 years. But it turned out to be a really massive disappointment. But perhaps what Germany served up was an even bigger disappointment. When they got drawn to play Paraguay in the round of 32, everyone thought that it was going to be a walkover for the 2014 champions. I mean, this was a team that lost 4-1 to the USA and only snuck into the knockouts as the 7th of 8 best third-place teams. There was just no way they stood a chance against the firepower of Germany. Or so we thought. As we all saw, the reality turned out to be very far from the expectation. Paraguay took the lead in that game and Germany had to come from behind. But they were only able to get an equalizer in normal time. Yes, the Europeans had the lion's share of possession, took more shots and completed more passes, but somehow it was Paraguay that had more big chances. That alone showed that Germany were barely doing anything with the ball. The underdogs dragged the big dogs to extra time and Germany thought they had won it when Jonathan Tah found the back of the net, but the goal was rightly disallowed due to a foul in the build-up. So on to pens we went, and that was just another avenue for the 4-time champions to let us all down once again. Havertz, who is usually infallible from the spot, missed the first kick and immediately put the European nation on the back foot. Then Voltemade had them on the brink of exit when he missed the 4th kick. But they caught a massive break when Paraguay went and missed their 4th and 5th kicks to bring things level and send us into sudden death. Germany should have taken advantage of this to establish their advantage, but there was confusion in the camp. Kimmich, the captain, asked Goretzka to step up for the 6th kick. He declined. That was a massive disappointment from a player of that level, and it also made us question why the order of the takers wasn't already predetermined even beyond the first 5. In the end, Tah stepped up and skied his penalty, and Paraguay scored theirs to knock out the Giants. That made it 3 straight World Cup tournaments where Germany have failed to reach the round of 16. It was such a disappointing outing that Julian Nagelsmann had to step down, with Klopp having since taken over as Germany head coach. Speaking of coaches who stepped down after getting knocked out reminds us of the Netherlands. A team like that not getting to the round of 16 is just embarrassing. And it is perhaps even more embarrassing when you remember that they scored in the 72nd minute of that game. They lost concentration and conceded in additional time, sending the game to extra time and eventually penalties, where the Dutch were even more disappointing. With penalties looming, Koeman opted to bring on Kluivert instead of a more senior player and better penalty taker like Memphis. Also, you have to question Captain Van Dijk for not stepping up to play a penalty in spite of the discomfort he was reportedly feeling. I mean, Salah's hamstrings were cooked in that game against Australia, but he still stepped up to take a penalty. That's a responsibility a captain must take. The whole display from the Netherlands was just very disappointing, and we're not surprised that Koeman left his role after that loss.
Well, you've asked for it and we've finally delivered. Relive the glory days with the most iconic designs in football history. Whether you're a fan of classic club colours or legendary international strips, we've got something to ignite your nostalgia. Perfect for match days, casual wear or adding to your collection. Shop the new retro range now at goal90.shop. Massive discounts await.
We're also not surprised that Roberto Martinez left his role after Portugal got knocked out in the round of 16. I mean, you could argue that losing 1-0 to the reigning European champions is not something to be too ashamed of, but when you look at that Portugal squad and the amount of talent they have, it's just disappointing that they didn't make the quarter-finals. And don't forget that they brought this upon themselves. If they had won their group, they would have had to play Ghana and Switzerland instead of Croatia and Spain. Also, it's not just that Portugal got knocked out, it was how it happened. The performance was just so lackluster. Spain had more possession, more shots on target, created more chances, generated more XG. They just did everything to a much higher level and were simply superior from minute 1 to 90. Portugal barely posed any threat all game, and that was very disappointing. It was a cowardly performance and surely not what anyone expected from a team that talented and that star-studded. But perhaps the biggest disappointment so far has come from Senegal. I mean, how on earth do you have a 2-goal lead going into the final 5 minutes of normal time and you end up bottling and getting yourself knocked out? It just doesn't make any sense. It was such a disappointing and embarrassing display. Even more embarrassing was the news that started to come out after the World Cup exposing the mismanagement of funds by the Senegalese delegate during the campaign. This wasn't just a disappointing knockout, it was a disappointing tournament. In truth, it was disappointing, embarrassing, and a downright disgrace. The hosts USA were also quite disappointing. To lose a knockout game 4-1 after the president of the country controversially got involved in overturning a rightful suspension for following Balogun is quite disappointing. The performance from the boys was not on par with what we had seen from them in the games leading up to that one, and it felt like they absolutely folded when they went up against their first decent team at the tournament. The errors, the loss of concentration, and the overall lack of spirit was all very disappointing to see, especially for the home fans. Finally, they might be in the quarter-finals right now, but defending champions Argentina have been pretty disappointing so far in these knockout rounds. Everyone said that they had the easiest run to the semis this year, but their first 2 knockout games have been a real struggle for them. Debutants Cabo Verde dragged them to extra time and had them really sweating. We thought they had learned their lesson, but the same thing happened against Egypt, a team that was playing their first ever World Cup round of 16 game that day. The expectation was that Argentina would cruise to a comfortable victory against the North African nation, but they made hard work of it, losing concentration and going 2-0 down before the 70th minute. It took Messi going into beast mode in order to dig them out of that mess. Everybody has been talking about a possible back-to-back for Argentina, and it could still happen, but what we've seen from them in the first 2 knockout games at this tournament has been very disappointing, and if they don't fix up, they might not survive a tougher opposition in the coming rounds. Anyway, it is now time to hear from you guys. For you, which nation has been the biggest disappointment so far at this World Cup? Tell us in the comments. Also, feel free to tell us which team you have been most impressed or most shocked by. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye.